Hey, David here. We are live for an expo. It's been a while since I did one of these streams. It's been a while since I've been to one of these expos. So I'll give it a little ramble. This is the Construction Association of Michigan Great Lakes Design and Construction Expo. I've been to these in past years. I'm not sure if I've streamed from them, but it's a conference and trade show focusing on construction in Metro Detroit. It has expo and classes. I had signed up for one lecture and I showed up a few minutes late, so wasn't going to go on a legislative update on current legislation in Michigan. But they have classes all day. I think some of them are paid, some of them are free. A lunch, and then an expo trade floor with various construction companies, equipment, contractors, auxiliary. I'll walk around and we'll look at the various things on the floor. Here they have the top 10 project achievement of various construction around Michigan. Um, so football for Michigan Central Station. This is probably the most popular one. That was from the ruins of former Detroit, the Ford Motor Company, and the rebuilding of the famous Central Station. Godfrey Hotel, downtown Detroit or Midtown Detroit. Uh, Different Michigan State universities. I'm not even familiar with a lot of these. Here's another one at Michigan State. So just look at these real quick, and then I'll wander through the floor and try to give a ramble, put some thoughts together because I haven't been streaming. I've been focusing on chess coaching and my research, so try to get back into coming to these conventions. There might be a few more conventions coming up. Consolidated Service Center, healthcare supplies, might be manufacturer. Uh, Saginow's Dow Event Center. It's a little bit interesting. Okay, so let's check out the floor. And yeah, I guess part of my, I don't know, God forbid, like midlife identity crisis has been not going to these shows because, partially, I guess, just identity crisis of how to present myself, what I'm doing with my life, and also my failure to make any livelihood. So I like science, I like technology, keeping up with things, but a practical benefit just to hanging out at these shows, streaming. Um, I haven't got one besides for my curiosity, and I've talked about the tough part of the current economics and the situation in Michigan and finding work. I've discussed at previous manufacturing, kind of like the divide between the rich and poor and the huge amount of capital it takes to get started in business and the difficulty for a single person. Although there's obviously people getting work. Um, and a lot of these things, really, they just want sales. Like the recruitment, everything is basically just sales, and you have to kind of present yourself like you're going to buy something or be good for their business. At the engineering one, there's always a few people that are kind of just happy to talk about the current state of business affairs, or just the current state of technology and what's going on in their business, or geek out on technology, science, how things are made, and that's more my speed. Just kind of the geek out on technology, how things are made, and you could talk a little bit about the business aspect. So also, my mother has retired now over 5 years, and she was a top lawyer at Honigman Miller Schwartz and Cohn, the major law firm in Metro Detroit. Some cool solar panels, and I had more networking value at that time, where like networking type things, people could mention like do you know this person, do you know that person, and I could say valuable things because my mother was a top lawyer and like name drop and even in construction, my mother used to represent uh, people like Walbridge and Barton Mallow, who were the top contractors in Michigan, and even did work for the owner of this convention center. I used to mention Mr. Fisher, but my mom's been retired for like 5 years now, so the networking and name dropping value has decreased. I haven't really kept up. I don't know really too many people. My mother's business partner, former business partners, or something like that, to be valuable in terms of like it's worthwhile to shake my hand or talk to me, that it's going to be valuable to them increasing their business. And also I guess my Jewish identity crisis, where I mean, okay, I wear a yarmulke. Most people they're not going to ask me like stuff like on streaming, but it's usually just going to be networking, where like name dropping and see, okay, well, I'm a religious Jew, and do I know this person and do I know that person? And I haven't been as connected with the community, so kind of the excitement of shaking hands or networking in any aspect has decreased. So been going to less of these conferences, but want to get back into doing it. There's more conferences coming up. The Automate conference. Construction was my business too. Saying like I worked in construction in New York for over a decade. I was at University of Michigan Tishman School of Construction Management, and studied some of these fields. Like I used to walk around, self-employed, cost estimating, and consulting. Although I really haven't done any work in that. So like 10 years later, I sometimes say like, well, I'm in education. Um, so that respect, I'm kind of just like a streamer geek walking around. But I'd like to get more a pulse on what's going on in these things. I don't want to fade out like that aspect of my life where I was heavily involved in these type things. I used to be a member of some of these organizations, go to meetings, and like use it or lose it. So here I am trying to put some thoughts together in streaming the economy. You see, like, okay, it's a convention, so the players are here. So most often these things are just basic networking for the people in the industry. There might be a few developers or various things, but it's mostly just the vendors, the conference. They'll bring together some speakers that presumably have useful information, like on legislation, consumer trends, newest technology, environmental regulation, um, global trends, various things where it's worth your while if you're into industry to come to these events and learn about the most important trends in the industry right now. And they had the economic forecast breakfast, which I think you had to pay for, but I had signed up for the legislative breakfast. Um, the legislative update and then missed that. Okay, so I've walked the floor. Let me try to ramble. Oswald, Yeshalom, God bless, good to see you. Um, so I missed the update, the economic update. I got some of the books, so when I go home, I'll put these on my queue and read through to see somewhat the state of the industry. I haven't really been following construction trends. You might assume that Trump back in office is good for construction. Trump as a builder, Republicans, contractors, construction industry definitely tends to lean Republican and business, the Biden administration regulation of your requirements, maybe like DEI or various aspects of environmental requirements, higher taxes, higher regulation, and you might see a tiny bit of pushback of less regulation. But I would say the greater economic factors that I've mentioned of big business being able harder and harder to operate as a small business will not change under Trump. There's larger economic factors, and you can even see in the new Trump administration um, the cozying up with private equity. So, private equity might move right. That Silicon Valley, but private equity, generally it has to be bipartisan, and had been working with the Democratic Party, and even in construction now, home ownership, large projects, basically everything is controlled by private equity, and it affects business at all levels. So level like, okay, why did I never succeed in construction? Because I would have had to take a huge risk and open up my own contracting business. I could have bought a house. Thank God I do manage a few properties, but I could have bought, I mentioned trying in the past I'd wanted to invest with a group of investors into a condominium complex focusing on Indians in this area, but that never came to fruition. Um, but it's hard to break into the business, and like I said, it's being more and more dominated by larger employers. You obviously have a significant amount of small contractors. The unions, I don't see. I mean, that might affect like the level of the unions. There's still a few trades where the unions are very important. I was like like pipe fitting, plumbing, electrical work. Um, various things where almost all the work are union. Um, but the owners, the builders, the large contracting firms. When I was in New York, I did almost exclusively finishing jobs, and that was with Orthodox Hasidic Jews, and to a large extent, the only real place you could break into the business is in finishing, where let me see if I could. Just try to search. Okay, so I'll put the camera back on me. Um, as well, now I think the construction is largely independent of the auto industry. I mean, there's together in manufacturing where you have construction of automotive manufacturing facilities, and then some economic connection where when the auto industry is doing better, there's more jobs, more construction, more money. But if you look at the major projects, you're looking at university buildings, entertainment centers, housing, commercial. So there's some connection, but no, I'd say it's independent, where there's always going to be construction. There's always going to be certain university universities are one of the big centers that are constantly building new construction, new buildings, hospitals, and so Detroit's had a little bit of a building boom of I was showing at the beginning the makeover of um, the old Michigan Central Station, and that's actually done by Ford. But a lot of the older buildings, retrofits and things like that, are they're connected to the larger economy. So you'll say there's a correspondence between the auto industry and construction, but I think there's larger economic factors. And even if the auto industry completely shut down and left from Metro Detroit, there'd still be construction. I mean, if there's worse economic times, and I usually say in manufacture, they say it's automotive or bust because about half of global manufacture is the automotive industry. So at any of the manufacturing automation conferences, it's always automotive centric. Here, I haven't seen anything automotive centric. Nothing here is really focusing on the automobile because um, really there's not much um, automotive construction. The automotive industry is probably doing worse here now with Tesla in the Trump administration. General Motors is having layoffs. Ford is surviving. So I think Ford is building some sort of like final assembly or Jeep. There's a few surviving Michigan auto manufacturers, but they're in the decline, and they might have one or two construction builds every few years, major construction projects. That, but the supply chain of like the level 2, level 3 small time manufacturing, those are on the decline. Like we've discussed at manufacturing, where it's much more difficult to be a small time manufacturer with automation, and therefore there's less construction related to manufacture, and the construction related to manufacture is almost exclusively dominated by uh, a few firms, like Barton Mallow, Walbridge, DeMaria, probably less than 10 major construction companies. O'Reiner, God bless, been a while. Um, hopefully I'm going to return to doing a few uh, expos this year. So, I'll ramble on a little bit longer, and then I'll walk around and grab a bunch of reading material. And from the reading material, I get a better feel for what's going on. Because, like I said, I haven't really been following construction for the last few years, not involved, and haven't been to one of these conventions for a few years. So, when I grab the reading material and read it over the next few months, that will give me a better feel for what's going on. But, construction waxes and wanes. So, even if construction's on the decline, like relative to like percent of GDP or projects, um, there's always construction going on, uh, even in a bad point where some of the major companies might make cutbacks or layoffs. Some of the smaller contractors might go out of business. There's always going to be construction, um, and for a while you had like housing, like the population decline across Michigan, and very little new housing being built. Uh, I think that's probably leveled out, and there is some new housing, there is some new buildings, commercial, besides Detroit across the state, various regions. There had been more construction for a period of time from Oswald's old area of the state to the, by Lake Michigan, maybe like Andrew Wilson, like Zeeland, Grand Rapids. Uh, Most of the new manufactured construction for almost a decade was on the west side of the state, and that boom may have stopped. I'm not sure the trends there. I assume there's still a little bit of new construction on the west side of the state, but it's probably decreased. And there's been a return to some construction projects back in Metro Detroit, the east side of the state, but by no means is there like a boom, construction boom. And like Dan Gilbert, Bedrock in Detroit, has ran into some difficulties. The supposed boom, gentrification, revitalization of Metro Detroit is still going on to some aspect, but it's stalled out some. And the idea like certain cities have had a successful gentrification boom in the downtown, and by no means would I say the Detroit one's been successful. Although there is sustained development, there is a little pocket of a gentrified area in downtown, a few businesses, law firms, but the attempt to bring technology, high-paid jobs, uh, hasn't really worked in Detroit. So, the building boom related or connected to it. The suburbs, metro. There's still a lot of businesses here, um, but maybe it's just stabilizing. And so, the construction industry, we would say just stable, nothing super interesting. So, I guess that's probably about the end of my ramble. It's good to see Oswald Briner haven't been for a while. Think there's an Automate conference in 2 months. I'm not sure. The Siemens conference I used to go to might be next month. I have to check. Um, but God willing, try to come to a few more conferences. I don't have any plans for streaming. I talked to Brutus, the British, the Hindu British nationalist. Randomly, Stephen James recommended, although that was on his channel. Rune, yeah, God bless, good to see you. Um, but I don't really have any streaming planned out, and I'm not doing a week in review anymore. I am currently working with Church of Entropy, Jennifer, on a book relate on like problem solving, metacognition, thinking skills, and it's a long process, but it's possible over the next month or few weeks. I'll do a stream with Jennifer related to some of our research for the book, and I might try to make like some PowerPoint presentations. I've been taking my chess coaching seriously. Um, yeah, you don't. Um, but I want to try streaming some general stuff on my research related to problem solving, consciousness. But my progress is slow. I miss week in review. I miss just kind of reading papers. Yeah, there's not really. I mean, construction's more MAGA because, like I said, if you're in construction, like if you're a dissident who's just doing low wage labor, I mean, one thing like um, Hispanics, like if you're talking labor, the historic, kind of like dissident who might have been a dissident labor worker, um, you don't really have whites doing labor. Most, I mean, you have some, like obviously, like across the state, you have a lot of plumbers and electricians, or roofers or small time construction. Um, but I would guess that most of those people are probably MAGA Trumpers. And if they're a small business owner, they have too much at stake to be a dissident, and they're probably used. Like they might have some grievances of and even immigration or something like that. They probably use Spanish workers. Like if you're involved in construction, you might have some competition, but you're more likely to use Hispanic workers than to have white workers. That you're going to be anti-immigration, and you're more likely to be philo-Semitic, or at least have a working relationship with the Jews in various management positions. Like I said, if you have a business and use an accountant or lawyer, you're more likely to be philo-Semitic. You might not like your lawyer, you might think you're getting shafted, but at a certain point you need your lawyer, you need your accountant, you need insurance, you need all these things, and you're going to run across um, Jews who are likely to be in these industries, and if you're successful, you're probably going to have some sort of working relationship. Like you're going to have, like you're not going to get fired in business hating your lawyer, hating your accountant, and anyone in those like legal or accounting businesses um, are going to tend to be philo-Semitic, or at least neutral, or at least have a working relationship where they're unlikely to be a public dissident. So yeah, I'd say there's much more. Yeah, Brutus didn't want to say. I mean, he wanted to keep his identity. So I mean, I know Gouted Mouth. I wanted to ask him about like who his guru was or what stream or something. But I guess if he gave too much information, you could probably figure out who he was. So that's fine. But decrease his chances. Like say like these days, do you really want to talk to a non-dissonant? And it's less and less interesting just to hear like okay, another dissident with his dissident views in the age of IRL activism. Um, I see a lot more Teslas on the road, but I mean, just on the Brutus point, now, like Arvil, I was saying that Brutus should speak to Arvil because he was Hindu for a while. There's Red the Vedas has a positive view towards Hinduism, but even like he's doing IRL activism, he's having conferences, and at the certain point, um, kind of like the business success model where you're going to become a streamer, get an audience, become monetized, or build up a movement. um, there's really little advantage to speaking to anonymous people in the current age of IRL activism. And like I said here, people are much more likely to be Trump, MAGA, pro-Israel even. Saying like even with everything going on, like if someone were to talk to me, they'd be much more likely to be on the side of Israel and kind of like wish me well and hope Israel wins the war or something like that. Then I mean people might watch Tucker Carlson or something like that. But I mean you're vested in the industry. Um, you're going to get much more MAGA type crowd, and in fact. This where I'm speaking right now at the Suburban Collection Convention Center is where Trump used to speak in Metro Detroit, where Trump did his rally right here in this same convention center. So about the Tesla, um, yeah, I haven't spoken to E. Michael Jones in such a long time. I read his book on the Holocaust industry, and I almost thought to try to speak to him, but like it'd be too risky for my YouTube channel. So like, if anyone's tight with E. Michael Jones and wants to set up a conversation somewhere, but I think it'd be put myself into danger. Like I'm going to invite E. Michael Jones to speak about his book, The Holocaust Industry, on my YouTube channel. There'd be no way I'd be able to do that, like a Twitter space or something like that. Um, and I haven't spoken to Charles Moskowitz for a while. Like he said, he was so upset. He said he's not going to speak to E. Michael Jones again, although I don't know if he's doing it or not. Um, and so I don't even know the venue. Like I could do a Twitter space with him, or I'd speak with him if he wanted to have me as a guest or someone else wanted to host that. But yeah, there's no real intersection right now, so I'm not streaming. So um, Teslas, Teslas are all over the place. Certainly with like I was mentioning when talking about the auto industry and construction, um, Trump's victory and the rise of Elon Musk is going to be bad for the big three. And the big three is completely vested in DEI initiatives and like the Biden Obama administration. And it might be too difficult for the auto industry to become pro MAGA. And you could even see like they're considering tearing down the Renaissance Center. General Motors is having real cutbacks. Chrysler, Daimler is on its last legs. Ford could become pro MAGA. So you could see, like a possible scenario where Chrysler and General Motors just go out of business and Ford becomes kind of like MAGA. Um, the rise of Tesla, the rise of Chinese competition, Japanese competition, but they say like the auto manufacturers are in difficulty. Tesla's numbers, they're increasing, but like Tesla taking over the market. Trump's not really that big of a fan of electric vehicles, the infrastructure, in terms like, okay, I don't see, when I come to other shows, I don't see anything here about the electrical grid for electrical cars. So like for Tesla, in terms like construction and the rise of electrical vehicles, you would need a complete makeover of the infrastructure from gas stations to the electrical grid. And that's something you might see, like charging stations, or in eventual vehicle to vehicle autonomous cars. And I used to go to that like years ago. I went to the name slipping me, the old Ford bomber place that now tests autonomous vehicles, or University of Michigan. Like I've been to those facilities and gotten tours. I'm not sure if I streamed them, but definitely have pictures on my Facebook. And okay, yeah, God bless Harmony. Um, but there's nothing here about like electrical vehicle chargers or electrical infrastructure, as I've seen. So we'll see if that changes, but I doubt it. So like in terms of Tesla, Elon Musk, and Doge, um, it's tough to see. Like and I've talked about on Week in Review in the past, though not recently, about the price of Tesla, and the market's basically betting that Tesla and like Honda, or maybe a few of the Chinese manufacturers, really the market is basically betting that all of the automotive companies are basically going to go bankrupt at some point over the next decade or so. Ford is really the only one that has any chance of surviving, and especially without government bailouts. So, if there did become, there's a scenario where over the next few years during this Trump administration, you could see the bankruptcy of General Motors, Chrysler, Daimler, and what that would mean for electrical vehicles. I don't think so, because Trump is focusing on gas prices, and is not electric friendly. Is rolling back the main precipice for electric vehicles is government regulation. So I mean, there's some level of a push for electric vehicles from various reasons. Like I would pro electric in terms like infrastructure, the direction of technology, vehicle to vehicle communication, autonomous vehicles. All of those are going to work better in electrical vehicles. However, the main inertia push for electrical vehicles is government regulation, and the CAFE standards. And I mean, I was telling Luke Ford, like, okay, Trump has not made any progress in legislation. So like whether Trump and the Republican controlled House and Senate actually forward any legislation is yet unclear. I've not actually seen any major. I was supposed to, like, I wanted to go to the legislative update, and I missed it. But say what legislation's on the horizon. But certainly if they roll back some of the environmental regulation, that's going to be a pushback on the switch to electrical vehicles. And okay, Tesla, they need subsidies. So even in terms like, okay, Tesla, let's say the price keeps on coming down, and there's solar panels, like but solar panels is not connected to electrical vehicles. So I mean, like solar panels, like I mean, I worked in the solar panel industry. My parents wanted solar panels on their house, and actually, like in Bloomfield Hills, uh, they couldn't. You can't get solar panels in Bloomfield Hills right now. They're not giving out permits. But like solar panels is completely different. I mean, they're really a good idea, especially like considering the crumbling infrastructure, and Michigan. Like I've talked in the past about power outages. Uh, the competency crisis. Solar panels is a powerful technology. It's a good idea. It's a good way to diversify your energy supply. In terms of like environmental regulation and switching away from fossil fuels and things like that, like I don't think there's going to be a big push from the Trump administration to you push towards more solar, more wind. In fact, he's doing against it. But as a private business owner, as a homeowner, solar is still a great idea. In terms to diversify your energy, and God forbid, like the competency crisis in trusting the infrastructure. Um, things might go south and bad for many ways. Like Michigan, we had horrible power outages, and you could have a generator, various things, but like solar, even energy crisis, energy prices. There's so many things that could happen where solar will still be popular. It may not be, because you're forced to do it or the government subsidies, and like certainly like. Um, yeah, I missed that one. I'm gonna go around after I'm done rambling and collect reading material. But yeah, you off like I didn't even see Has uh, Husqvarna, Swedish company. Yeah, there's often Swedish companies. I don't know what they manufacture. If they do, like, I mean, presumably they make some sort of construction equipment, and it could be like from aluminum siding to windows, or any type thing where you're going to have manufacturers from around the world. Like I would assume Swiss, if there's a Swiss manufacturer, it's probably like something precision, more expensive. If it's not going to be manufactured in the U.S. And a lot of these Swiss companies, they actually manufacture in the U.S. But yeah, I mean, it's presumably some sort of precision manufacturer, and there's always Swiss companies. I mean, it's mostly like the manufacturing. You have a lot of German companies or Chinese, um, but you sometimes have Turkish companies. I guess I haven't been going for a few years to these conferences, and so the names of the various companies and what they do, uh, slip in my mind. But in terms of like the government subsidies for solar becomes a very good deal when there's regulation making natural gas, coal, uh, oil, all these things more expensive, and when they give government subsidies to renewable energy. So if they completely reverse it, they get rid of all the subsidies for solar and electric, and they roll back regulation on fossil fuels. That would still not change the fact that solar is a good way to diversify your energy portfolio, and and to alleviate your reliance on an ever decreasing trustworthiness in the electrical grid. But I only saw one solar company. I mean, I walk around. There's probably a few companies, but one company that's prominently displaying solar panels, and which is less than historically, because say like um, like if you have a lot of money, if you have a large bank account, um, solar panels still might be worthwhile, just to diversify your energy, to decrease your reliance on the grid. Uh, but generally you need the government tax incentives to make it fiscally sound. Also, things like the light bulbs and the various things. So when I used to go in the past to these events, it's still under the Obama administration when I first started going, and then you had like the federal stimulus package and all these various things. So like OSHA's here. Um, I mean, OSHA's not going to go away under Trump. They might change a few of the they might get rid of a few requirements. But I mean, there's no way Trump's going to be able to shut down OSHA or something like that. Or he might roll back. He wants to. I think he's claiming he wants to do 10-to-1 regulations. Like every new regulation, they got to get rid of 10. But there's so many regulations on the book, and there's almost no chance that's actually going to happen at that level. Okay, so thanks for being in the chat. You guys, you revived some energy. Got some people here, so I think I'm about to sign off, and I'm going to go table to table, collect some reading material, maybe speak to a few people, get a feel for what's going on in the industry. Um, it's possible. I would like to go back to doing some sort of weekend review, kind of reading papers. Um, if anyone has recommendations, like I would like to speak to E. Michael Jones, but like to host controversial things on my YouTube channel is unlikely to do. So, like Twitter Spaces or something like that. So my Discord, I just got 100 people in my Discord, so all-time highs in my Discord server. Um, so with that, I'm signing off, and appreciate you tuning in. And God bless. And hopefully, we're going to get a few more of these conventions this year.